John Miller yawned as he stared at the computer screen. The night shift at NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Station was usually boring. He sipped his cold coffee and checked the incoming signals from the outer solar system. His eyes widened. Something was wrong. The signal patterns from the edge of the solar system were unlike anything he had seen before. They pulsed in a regular pattern that could not be natural. He called his supervisor, Bill Taylor. "Sir, you need to see this," John said, pointing at his screen. The signal was getting stronger. Bill's face went pale. He picked up a red phone on the wall. "This is Taylor at Station 6. We have a code Omega 7. Repeat, Omega 7. Within an hour, helicopters landed outside the station. Men and women in dark suits rushed in. They took John's data and told him to come with them. "What's happening?" John asked as they led him to a helicopter. Nobody answered. The helicopter flew through the night to a mountain range John recognized. It as Yellowstone. They landed near what looked like a normal park ranger station. Inside, however, was an elevator that went deep underground. The doors opened to reveal a large room filled with screens and maps. People in military uniforms and lab coats moved around quickly. In the center stood a tall woman with silver hair. Her face was lined with age and worry. The name tag on her uniform read Patricia Wallace, Council Leader. "Mr. Miller," she said, "welcome to the Planetary Defense Council. What you found tonight is what we have feared for decades." She led him to a large screen showing the solar system. Red dots moved toward Earth. "These are ships, alien ships." "And they're coming for us," John laughed nervously. This has to be a joke, but nobody was smiling. He looked at the serious faces around him. "Aliens aren't real," he said weakly. Patricia pressed a button. A section of wall slid open, revealing a glass case. Inside was something that made John step back in shock. It was a metal object shaped like a star with strange markings. It glowed with a blue light. "We found this in 1957, Patricia said. "It's a data storage device with technology far beyond ours. It took us 20 years to learn how to read it. It contained star maps, biological data about Earth, and information about the Kralthan Empire." A woman stepped forward. Her lab coat had the name Lisa Clark stitched on it. "The Kralthan are a reptilian species," she explained. She touched a screen, bringing up an image that made John's stomach turn. The creature was tall with scaly skin, 4 arms, and a head with too many eyes. "They are highly advanced and extremely aggressive. They have conquered 6 inhabited worlds in the last 100 years. "Why would they come here?" John asked. "Resources." Lisa said their biology requires certain minerals that are common on Earth. To them, we are simply in the way. Patricia pointed to the red dots on the screen. "Based on their current speed, they will reach Earth in 30 days. And when they do, they will not come in peace." Another man spoke up from a computer station. "Council Leader, the President is on the line," Patricia nodded. "Tell him I'll be right there." She turned to John. "Mr. Miller, you are now part of a very small group that knows the truth. 70 years ago, Kralthan scout ships took samples of our technology, our weapons, and our biology. They've been studying us, preparing for this invasion. We kept it secret to prevent panic, but we've also been preparing." "What can we possibly do against aliens that advanced?" John asked. "More than you might think," Patricia said with a thin smile. "Follow me." She led him through a heavy door into a vast underground hangar. John gasped. Inside were aircraft unlike anything he had ever seen. They were sleek and black with no visible engines. Men and women in jumpsuits worked on them, installing what looked like weapons. "We've been reverse engineering their technology for decades," Patricia explained. "We're not defenseless." A loud alarm suddenly blared through the facility. Red lights flashed on the walls. Everyone stopped what they were doing. "Status report." Patricia called out. A young man at a computer terminal responded. "The Kralthan fleet just destroyed our outer system monitoring satellites. They're moving faster than we predicted. New arrival estimate is 21 days. Patricia's face hardened. "It's time to activate the emergency protocols. Alert all council members worldwide. We are now at Defense Condition 1. She turned to John. Mr. Miller, your expertise in signal analysis is why you're here. I need you to help us decode their communications. If we can understand what they're saying to each other, we might find a weakness. John nodded slowly, the reality of the situation sinking in. I'll do whatever I can. Good, Patricia said, because humanity's survival may depend on it. Back in the main control room, screens showed news reports from around the world. Strange lights had been seen in the sky. Governments were issuing statements about unusual meteor activity. People were starting to worry. Patricia stood before the council members who had gathered. There were 12 of them from different countries. It's time to tell the world, she said. We can't hide this anymore. People need time to prepare. An older man shook his head. Telling 7 billion people that aliens are coming to destroy. U.S. will cause chaos, riots, mass panic. Keeping them in the dark will lead to more deaths, Patricia argued. We need to start evacuating coastal cities. Moving people to the shelters we've built? Activating the defense systems? We can't do that in secret. After hours of debate, they voted. The decision was made. Patricia would address the world the next day. That night, John couldn't sleep. He worked in the signal analysis lab with Lisa, trying to make sense of the alien communications. What's this pattern here? He asked, pointing to a repeating sequence. Lisa looked closely. I'm not sure. It's different from their normal command signals. She typed rapidly, running the pattern through a translation algorithm. Her eyes widened. This isn't a military command, it's a message to someone on Earth. John felt cold. You mean they have spies here already? Or allies, Lisa said. Grimly, we need to tell Patricia right away. They rushed to Patricia's office. She was recording her speech for the worldwide broadcast. When she heard their news, she shut off the camera. Show me, she ordered. The signal was being sent to somewhere in the Arctic Circle. Patricia made a call, ordering a team to investigate immediately. This changes everything, she said. If they have help from inside, our defenses might be compromised. The next morning, as the world waited for Patricia's announcement, news came from the Arctic team. They had found something buried in the ice. Something that had been there for thousands of years. An alien structure, now active and sending signals back to the approaching fleet. It wasn't just 70 years ago, Patricia said, her voice hollow. They've been watching us for much longer than we thought. As John helped prepare the broadcast center, he noticed Lisa looking at old files. What are you searching for? He asked. There's something the council isn't telling us, she said quietly. Something about the last Kralfin visit. Look at this. She showed him a classified file with most of the text blacked out. But one phrase was clear. Omega Protocol, what's that? John asked. I don't know. But Patricia mentioned it yesterday, and everyone in the room looked scared, not of the aliens, of the protocol itself. John realized that humanity faced not just one threat, but possibly two. The coming invasion, and a secret so dangerous that even now the council kept it hidden. As Patricia prepared to tell the world about the Kralfin, John wondered what other secrets would soon come to light, and whether any of them would survive to see the end of this war. Strange clouds formed over major cities worldwide as more Kralfin ships entered Earth's atmosphere. In New York, Officer Alan White directed scared people toward underground subway stations that had been converted to shelters. He looked up at the massive alien ship hovering over the city. It was shaped like a giant disk with lights pulsing along its edges. Similar ships appeared over London, Tokyo, Beijing, and other big cities around the world. In the council's mountain base, Nathan Jones studied the attack pattern on a large screen. He was the council's top military expert. This isn't their main attack, he told Patricia. They're trying to distract us. Explain, Patricia ordered. Nathan pointed to smaller red dots moving on the screen. These smaller ships are heading for our military bases, power plants, and communication centers. The big ships over cities are just for show. They want us looking up while their real forces hit our important targets. Patricia turned to Susan. How many shield generators have been deployed? 37 so far, Susan said. Mostly around key military installations. What about civilian centers? Susan shook her head. Not enough to go around. Patricia made a hard decision. Keep the shields focused on military targets. We can't defend everyone, so we need to protect our ability to fight back. John watched the dots on the screen with growing horror. So we're just letting them attack civilians? We're making the best of a bad situation, Frank said. If we lose our military bases, we lose everything. Across the globe, Cralthon strike teams landed at military installations. They were 8 feet tall with scaly skin and moved with frightening speed. Their armor seemed to absorb bullets, and their weapons fired beams that cut through steel like it was paper. But where Susan's shield generators were active, blue energy fields stopped the alien weapons. Earth soldiers fought back with new guns that fired blue energy bolts based on Arcadian technology. In the Pacific, Colonel Steve Matthews led the defense of a naval base. His men were losing badly until a blue shield suddenly appeared overhead. The Cralthon weapons hit the shield and stopped. Steve ordered his troops to counterattack. "Aim for the joints in their armor," he shouted over the radio. "Their neck and knees are vulnerable." The tide of battle shifted. When the Cralthon realized their weapons couldn't penetrate the shields, they pulled back. It was the same at other bases protected by the new technology. The aliens retreated to their ships, surprised by the resistance. In the council base, a cheer went up as reports came in. "They're pulling back," Nathan announced. "They didn't expect us to have shield technology." "Don't celebrate yet," Patricia warned. "This was just their first wave. They're testing us, learning our capabilities." John studied the data from the battles. "Their ships are emitting some kind of signal after each attack. I think they're sending information back to their main fleet." "Can you decode it?" Patricia asked. "Working on it," John said. "But it's complex." Lisa rushed into the room with a tablet computer. "We've analyzed soil samples from areas where the Cralthon landed. They're releasing some kind of spores or seeds into our atmosphere." "The terraforming process has begun," Gary said grimly. Susan looked at the data. "At the current rate, our atmosphere will start changing in 9 days. We'll notice effects in major cities first. Breathing problems, then worse." Frank pounded the table with his fist. "We need to deploy the Omega Protocol now." Patricia shook her head. "Not yet. The Arcadian fleet is still 7 days out. We use Omega only as a last resort." "What exactly is this Omega Protocol?" John asked. Nobody answered him. Meanwhile, the public was panicking. The first attacks had left thousands dead and millions running from cities. Roads were jammed with cars. In some places, people fought over food and gas. Governments tried to maintain order, but it was hard when giant alien ships filled the skies. Patricia decided to address the world again. "People of Earth," she said on camera, "we have survived the first attack. Our military forces have successfully defended key installations, and we have weapons that can hurt the invaders. Stay in your homes if possible. If you must evacuate, follow instructions from local authorities. We are not defeated. We will not surrender." Her words helped calm some of the panic. Around the world, people began to organize. Neighbors formed watch groups. RETIRED soldiers volunteered to train civilians. Scientists worked around the clock to understand the alien technology from captured or destroyed Cralthon ships. Susan's S team worked faster to deploy more shield generators. They couldn't cover whole cities, but they set up safe zones where people could gather. The blue domes became symbols of hope as they spread across the world. In space, the main Cralthon fleet approached Mars. There were hundreds of ships, much larger than the scouts that had attacked Earth. Satellite images showed them setting up bases on the Red Planet, preparing for the final push to Earth. Gary met again with the Arcadian ambassador through the crystal communicator. "Your shield technology is working," he reported, "but we need your fleet to arrive sooner. The Cralthon are already starting to change our atmosphere." Zorai's hologram looked troubled. We are moving as fast as possible, but the Kralthen have set up blockades in nearby systems. We must fight through them. How many ships can we expect? Gary asked. 50 vessels of various sizes, Zorai replied. Enough to challenge the Kralthen. Fleet, but not enough for certain victory, Gary frowned. That's fewer than we hoped for. There are other worlds that need protection, Zorai said. We cannot commit our entire fleet to Earth. When Gary reported this to the council, Frank was furious. They promised us more support. We've been preparing for this for decades based on their promises. We're still better off with their help than without it, Patricia said calmly. Keep working on the shield deployment, Susan. John, I need you to crack that Kralthen communication code. We need to know what they're planning next. John nodded and went back to work with Lisa. They fed the alien signals through various decoding algorithms. After hours of work, they made a breakthrough. I think I've got something, John said. It's still rough, but I can make out parts of their messages. The others gathered around his screen. The translation was broken, but clear enough. First, wave ... resistance stronger than expected. Shield technology detected. Possible Arcadian involvement ... Request main fleet acceleration. Terraforming process initiated. Estimated 9 days until atmosphere reaches phase 1. Frank looked at Patricia. They know about our connection to the Arcadians. They're speeding up their timetable. New. Satellite images confirmed it. The Kralthen main fleet was moving faster, burning their engines hot. They would reach Earth in 4 days, not 7 as originally estimated. The Arcadian fleet would arrive too late. Susan looked at the data with growing alarm. At this rate, they'll begin full-scale terraforming before the Arcadians arrive. We need to buy more time. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. Then she made her decision. Prepare the Omega Protocol for deployment. We need to be ready to use it the moment the main fleet enters Earth orbit. Finally, Frank said. John looked between them. Will someone please tell me what this Omega Protocol is? Patricia led John to a secure room where a single screen showed what looked like satellite photos of Antarctica. She zoomed in on a location deep in the ice. 70 years ago, when the Kralthen first visited Earth, they left something behind. We think it was an accident, perhaps damage from our primitive weapons at the time. The image showed a massive object buried in the ice. It was clearly not human-made. Is that ... ship? John asked. Part of one, Patricia confirmed. Specifically? Its power core. The Arcadians helped us understand it. It's a quantum singularity, essentially a controlled black hole used as a power source. We've been studying it for decades, learning how to control it. John felt cold as he understood. You're going to use it as a weapon, Patricia nodded. If we detonate it in space near the Kralthen fleet, it will create a temporary wormhole. It won't destroy them all, but it should disable many of their ships and buy us time until the Arcadians arrive. And if something goes wrong? John asked. Patricia's single quotes S face was grim. Then Earth might suffer damage worse than what the Kralthen have planned. That's why it's our last resort. As they prepared the Omega Protocol, new Kralthen ships entered Earth's atmosphere. The second wave of the invasion had begun, and this time, the aliens knew what they were facing. 3 days after the first attack, the Council faced a new problem. Karen Williams, the security chief, burst into the command center with a tablet in her hand. Her face was tight with anger. We have a traitor, she announced. The room went quiet. As she placed the tablet on the main table, it showed a series of encrypted messages sent from inside the base. Someone has been sending information to an outside group, she explained. I caught these communications going out during the last 12 hours. Patricia looked at the data. Can you trace them? Karen nodded. They came from Frank's security clearance. All eyes turned to Frank Gibson, who stood near the tactical display. His face showed no surprise or guilt. I'm not a traitor, he said calmly. I'm a patriot. Explain, Patricia demanded. Frank crossed his arms. I've been sharing information with a group called Earth First. They believe, as I do, that we should not trust the Arcadians. They're just another empire building their influence. After we defeat the Krolfen, the Arcadians will be our new masters. That's not your decision to make, Patricia said, her voice cold. You've compromised our security. I've ensured we have a backup plan, Frank countered. One that doesn't rely on alien saviors. Patricia nodded to Karen. Take him into custody. Two guards moved toward Frank, but he was faster. He pulled a small device from his pocket and pressed it. All the lights in the room flickered. Computers shut down and restarted. Electromagnetic pulse, Frank explained. Limited range, but enough to give me a head start. In the confusion, he ran from the room. Alarms sounded throughout the base. Lock down the facility, Patricia ordered. He can't be allowed to leave with what he knows. But Frank knew the base well. He took hidden passages and used his security clearance to bypass locked doors. By the time the systems came back online, he had reached a vehicle bay and stolen a jeep. He drove out through an emergency exit as guards fired at his tires. John watched the security camera footage with disbelief. What did he take? Karen checked the logs. Defense schematics, shield generator plans, and details about the Omega Protocol. Enough to cause serious damage in the wrong hands. Patricia organized search teams immediately, but Frank had disappeared into the mountainous terrain. Meanwhile, the Krolfen continued their attacks around the world. More ships entered the atmosphere each hour. Cities burned as the aliens targeted infrastructure. Millions of refugees fled to areas protected by Susan's shield generators. John and Lisa worked to improve their understanding of the Krolfen communications. They're setting up relay stations, John realized, studying the data. They're building structures that strengthen their connection to their main fleet, Lisa added. And look at these energy readings. The relay stations are also accelerating the terraforming process. The atmospheric changes are happening faster than we predicted. Susan confirmed this with her own readings. Oxygen levels are already dropping in areas with heavy Krolfen presence. People are getting sick. We have maybe 4 days before it affects major population centers. In orbit, satellite images showed the Krolfen main fleet approaching, faster than expected. John studied the readings with growing alarm. They've built something like hyperspace gates throughout our solar system. They're jumping their ships ahead of schedule. Patricia called an emergency meeting of the remaining council members. The Arcadian fleet will arrive too late. We need to deploy the Omega Protocol now. Gary shook his head. The Arcadian ambassador advises against it. Without their guidance, we risk catastrophic failure. We don't have a choice, Patricia insisted. Prep the Antarctica team. We launch in 6 hours. As preparations for the Omega Protocol accelerated, Patricia made another difficult decision. She authorized a global broadcast revealing the existence of both the Krolfen threat and the Arcadian alliance. People of Earth, she said, her face filling screens worldwide. What I'm about to tell you will change your understanding of our place in the universe. We are not alone in this fight. She explained about the Arcadians, their technology, and their coming fleet. For decades, we kept this secret to prevent panic. But now you deserve to know the full truth. We stand at a crossroads for humanity. United with our Arcadian allies, we have a chance to survive. The revelation caused exactly what the Council had feared: panic, religious upheaval, and civil unrest in some regions. But it also had an unexpected effect. It united humanity with a common purpose. Military forces around the world reorganized under Council direction. Civilians volunteered to help deploy shield generators. Scientists shared information freely across national boundaries. As the world processed this news, John detected a strange broadcast on emergency channels. It was Frank Gibson. Citizens of Earth, he said, his face grim on the screen. You've been told only part of the truth. I have evidence that the Arcadians orchestrated this entire invasion. John and Karen traced the broadcast to an abandoned observatory in Arizona. Patricia dispatched a team to find Frank and stop him from spreading dangerous misinformation. John, I want you on that team, she said. You understand the Krolfen communications better than anyone. If Frank has evidence, I need you to evaluate it. John and Karen led a small team in a helicopter to Arizona. They landed near the observatory as the sun was setting. The old building stood on a hill, its white dome gleaming in the fading light. They approached cautiously, weapons ready. Inside, they found Frank sitting at a computer console. He wasn't alone. Beside him stood a figure that was neither human nor Crawfin nor anything like the Arcadian holograms John had seen. It was tall and slender with pale, almost translucent skin and large, almond-shaped eyes. "Meet the Na'vi," Frank said without turning around. "They've been watching everything." The alien inclined its head slightly in greeting. "We have observed your conflict," it said in perfect English. "We believe you deserve to know the complete truth." Karen kept her weapon aimed at Frank. "What truth?" "The Arcadians and Crawfin have been at war for thousands of years," Frank explained. "They use developing worlds as proxies. We're just the latest battlefield." The Na'vi touched a crystal on its wrist, and a holographic display appeared in the air. It showed star maps and battle records spanning centuries. "Both empires harvest worlds for resources and conscripts," it explained. "The Arcadians are simply more patient, cultivating rather than conquering, but the end result is the same." John studied the data with growing horror. "If this is true, then the Arcadian fleet isn't coming to save us. They're coming to claim." Exactly," Frank said. "Once they defeat the Crawfin, they'll expect our loyalty and resources. We'll be trading one master for another." Karen lowered her weapon slowly. "We need to get this information to Patricia." The Omega Protocol. Launch is in 3 hours. They gathered all the data from the Na'vi and rushed back to their helicopter. As they flew toward the council base, John saw Crawfin ships in the distance more than before. The second wave of the invasion was intensifying. Back at the base, Patricia reviewed the Na'vi information with a grave expression. "Can we trust this new alien?" she asked. "The data seems legitimate," John said. "And it explains why the Arcadians have been so helpful yet so secretive. If we use the Omega Protocol now, we destroy our best defense against the Crawfin," Gary pointed out. "But if we wait for the Arcadians, we become their puppets," Patricia finished. Susan looked up from her computer. "We have another problem." Frank took more than just information when he left. He took components from the shield generators. "Without them, we can't expand the protected zones. Millions more people will be exposed to the terraforming effects." Patricia stood silent for a long moment, weighing impossible choices. Finally, she looked at John. "Contact the Na'vi. Ask if they're willing to help us directly." "And the Omega Protocol?" Gary asked. "Keep it ready," Patricia said. "But hold the launch. I have a different plan now." As John established communication with the Na'vi, satellite alerts showed the Crawfin main fleet entering Earth orbit. Hundreds of massive ships filled the sky, blocking the sun in terrifying eclipse patterns across the planet. On the main communication channel, a harsh voice broadcast in all languages. "People of Earth, I am Warlord Kurthik of the Crawfin Empire. Your world is now under our control. Surrender or face extinction." Humanity's final stand was about to begin, caught between two alien empires with Earth as the prize. The massive Crawfin ships filled Earth's skies like dark clouds. Their sizes varied from large cruisers to the enormous command vessel that positioned itself above the Atlantic Ocean. Smaller ships broke off from the main fleet and began entering the atmosphere. Across the globe, people looked up in fear. In the Council's mountain base, Patricia gathered her team for what might be their final stand. "The Na'vi have agreed to help us," John reported. "They've shared technology that can disrupt both Crawfin and Arcadian communications." "Good," Patricia said. "We'll need every advantage." Susan pointed to a world map showing blue dots where shield generators were active. "We've protected about 30% of major population centers. It's not enough, but it's all we have." Gary entered the room with urgent news. "The Arcadian fleet has increased speed. They'll arrive in 12 hours. "Too late," Karen said, pointing to atmospheric readings. "The Crawfin terraforming is accelerating. Oxygen levels are dropping worldwide. We have maybe 10 hours before permanent damage begins. Patricia looked at each person in the room. Then we fight with what we have. Deploy all remaining shield generators. Activate every weapon system and get me a direct line to Warlord Kurthek. On the main screen, the face of the Kralthan leader appeared. He had gray-green scales and yellow eyes with vertical pupils. Human leader, he hissed. Have you called to surrender? I've called to negotiate, Patricia replied calmly. Our planets need not be enemies. Kurthek made a sound like rocks grinding together. John realized it was laughter. There is nothing. To negotiate, your world has resources we need. Your species is an obstacle to be removed, Patricia nodded slightly. I thought you might say that. But before you continue your attack, you should know something. We are aware of your ancient war with the Arcadians. The alien's eyes narrowed. What do you know of this? We know both empires use developing worlds as pawns. We know the Arcadians are on their way here now. And we know neither of you truly cares what happens to humanity. Kurthek was silent for a moment. The Arcadians have corrupted you with lies. Not the Arcadians, Patricia said. The Na'vi have shown us the truth. At the mention of this name, Kurthek's posture changed. The Na'vi are here. Impossible. They are observers only. They never interfere. They've made an exception, Patricia said. They've given us technology that could destroy this entire solar system. Withdraw your forces now, or nobody gets what they want. The screen went dark as Kurthek cut the transmission. Minutes later, sensors detected the Kralthan ships changing formation. They're preparing for a full attack, Nathan warned. Patricia opened another channel. This one to the approaching Arcadian fleet? Ambassador Zorai appeared on screen. Patricia Wallace, we are 8 hours from Earth orbit. Hold position until we arrive. Ambassador, we know the truth about your war with the Kralthan, Patricia said. We know Earth is just another battlefield to you. Zorai's expression didn't change. You have been misinformed. We come as allies. The Na'vi have shown us historical records. Your empire has been harvesting developing worlds for centuries, just like the Kralthan. Zorai was silent for a long moment. The Na'vi should not have interfered. They have endangered the balance. We have technology from them that could destroy this entire system, Patricia bluffed. Both your fleets would be lost. Withdraw now. You would destroy your own world? Zorai asked. If that's what it takes to keep it from becoming a colony for either of your empires, yes. As both alien fleets considered Patricia's threat, Kralthan ships began their attack. They fired energy weapons at cities and military bases around the world. Where Susan's shield generators were active, the blue domes held, but many places had no protection. Buildings crumbled and fires spread as alien dropships landed troops. We need to buy more time, Patricia said. Prepare the Omega. Protocol for launch, we'll target the Kralthan command ship. In Antarctica, a team of scientists and soldiers worked on the buried alien power core. They had attached it to a missile system that could deliver it to orbit. As they made final preparations, Kralthan ships appeared overhead. They had somehow learned of the weapon's location. Antarctica base is under attack, a voice shouted over the radio. We can't hold them off much longer, Patricia turned to Susan. How long until the Omega protocol is ready? 10 minutes at least, Susan replied. It was too long. On the screens, they watched as Kralthan forces overwhelmed the Antarctica base. The Omega protocol was lost. We need a new plan, John said urgently. What about the Na'vi technology? It's not a weapon, Karen explained. It's a communication system that can override both Kralthan and Arcadian control signals. John's eyes widened. That's it. If we can take control of their ships, double quotes, Patricia understood immediately. Susan, can you integrate this technology with our satellite network? I think so, Susan said. But we'd need to get close to their command. Ships to establish the initial link. Patricia looked at Nathan. What aircraft do we have that could reach orbit? Nothing that would survive their defenses. Nathan admitted. Frank Gibson's voice suddenly came through on the communication system. I might have a solution to that problem. They traced the signal to a hangar at the edge of the mountain base. Frank had returned. When they reached him, they found him standing beside something covered with a tarp. I took components from the shield generators for a reason, he said. I needed them for this. He pulled away the tarp to reveal a small aircraft unlike anything they had seen before. It was sleek and black with blue energy pulsing along its edges. The Na'vi helped me build it, Frank explained. It uses their stealth technology. It can reach the Kralthan command ship undetected. Patricia studied the craft. Who's going to fly it? I am, Frank said. This was my idea, my responsibility. John stepped forward. I need to go too. I understand the communication systems better than anyone. As they prepared for the mission, Kralthan forces continued their assault worldwide. Colonel Steve Matthews and his troops fought desperately to hold a shield generator station in Europe. In Asia, fighters engaged alien ships in the sky. Civilians huddled in protected zones, watching as their world burned around them. Frank and John boarded the Na'vi craft. It rose silently from the hangar and accelerated upward at impossible speed. Within minutes, they were in orbit, approaching the massive Kralthan command ship. Their sensors can't detect us, Frank said, checking the instruments. But we need to dock somewhere they won't notice us immediately. John pointed to a section of the ship. There, it looks like a maintenance port. They landed quietly and entered the alien vessel. The corridors were tall and wide, designed for the larger Kralthan. They moved carefully, following directions from the Na'vi about where to find the communication center. Why did you do it? John asked as they moved. Why betray the Council? I never betrayed humanity, Frank replied. I just didn't trust aliens to save us, any aliens. Yet here we are using Na'vi technology. The difference is, the Na'vi don't want anything from us. They truly are just observers, usually. They reached the communication center without being detected. John connected the Na'vi device to the Kralthan systems. It's working, he whispered. I'm getting access to their network. Back at the Council base, Susan saw the connection. Establish, we're in, starting the override sequence now. Across Earth orbit, Kralthan ships suddenly stopped firing. Their engines shut down. Drop ships halted mid-descent. The entire fleet went dark. It worked. Karen exclaimed. But their victory was short-lived. On the screens, new ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. The Arcadian fleet had arrived. Early, hundreds of vessels, their designs sleek and beautiful compared to the brutal Kralthan ships. Can we control them too? Patricia asked. Susan shook her head. Not from here. John would need to connect directly to their command ship as well. On the Kralthan vessel, John and Frank felt the ship shudder. They're trying to override our control, John said. We need to strengthen the signal. Frank looked at the device. There's only one way to do that. Someone needs to stay and maintain the connection manually. John understood. You mean? Go, Frank said. Take the ship. Get to the Arcadian fleet. I'll hold things here. John wanted to argue, but knew there was no time. He returned to the Na'vi craft alone and launched back into space. As he flew toward the approaching Arcadian fleet, he saw the Kralthan ships begin to move again. Frank couldn't hold them for long. The Arcadian fleet engaged the Kralthan ships. Energy weapons fired across the void. Ships on both sides exploded in silent bursts of light. Earth was caught in the middle of their ancient war. John reached the Arcadian command ship and repeated the process, connecting the Na'vi device to their systems. This time, Susan was ready. The moment the connection established, she sent the override signal to both fleets simultaneously. Across Earth orbit, all alien ships went dark. Their weapons stopped firing. Their engines shut down. Both mighty fleets drifted powerless in space. Patricia opened a communication channel to both the Kralthan warlord and the Arcadian commander. Earth will not be a battlefield or a colony for either of your empires, she declared. We control your fleets now. Withdraw from our solar system immediately, or we will use your own weapons against you. Queen Zyelvaria of the Cytherian Empire stood at the large crystal window of her private room aboard the royal ship. Her shiny scales reflected light as she struggled to control her anger. The stars stretched out before her, but her six purple eyes focused on one small blue planet that had caused her so much trouble. Earth, bring Princess Nayeli to me, she ordered. Her voice made the servants bow lower as they hurried to obey. The royal palace ship, Eternal Dominion, held over 10,000 of the Empire's best people, but lately all attention had focused on the problem within the royal family. Nayeli, next in line to rule the seven systems of Cytherian, had been making more and more diplomatic visits to Earth. The Queen had allowed these trips as learning experiences, until her spies reported something troubling. Princess Nayeli entered the room with perfect grace. Her head crest was fully extended in formal greeting. At 93 years old, she was still very young for a Cytherian, but she carried herself like someone much older. "Mother, you called?" "For me?" Nayeli asked. Her voice was musical but careful. Queen Zyelvaria turned slowly, her ceremonial armor making soft clicking sounds as she moved. "Explain yourself," she said, turning on a display between them. The image showed the princess, in her human-like form, walking hand in hand with a human male through a garden. Nayeli's inner eyelids flickered, the Cytherian version of a blush. "His name is Daniel Wright. He works as a cultural contact person for the Earth Diplomatic Corps." "I know who he is," the Queen hissed, her voice dropping dangerously low. "What I want to know is why the heir to the most powerful empire in 3 galaxies is romantically involved with a human whose species has barely managed to travel between planets." The princess straightened her posture, her forearms positioned in formal defense stance. "Daniel is special, Mother. His understanding of relations between species is amazing. His mind works differently than ours." "All human minds work differently." "Than ours," the Queen interrupted. "Their brain paths are simple, their lives absurdly short. They are barely more than clever animals." Nellie's head crest flattened in displeasure. "That's an old-fashioned view. Humans have accomplished more in their short history than the Voxel Collective did in 10,000 years. "Watch your tone," Queen Zyelvaria warned. "You have responsibilities that go beyond your personal wants. The genetic line of our house has stayed pure for generations. The alliance with the Proxima dynasty depends on your marriage to Prince Zorith." "Zorith wants war and believes humans should be controlled," Nayeli argued back. "And I will not be used to create an alliance that supports that kind of thinking." The Queen moved closer, towering over her daughter. "Why that human, Nayeli? Of all the species, of all the suitable matches we could arrange, why choose a member of a species that most of the galactic community sees as primitive?" Princess Nayeli didn't back down. "Perhaps that's exactly why, Mother. Because when the rest of the galaxy looks down on humans, they miss what makes them special. They adapt quickly, create new things, and are fiercely loyal. Daniel has shown me parts of the universe I never knew existed, despite our supposed superiority." "You speak of emotions," the Queen said dismissively. "Feelings that will fade long before your 3rd century." "I speak of respect," Nayeli replied. "Something the Cytherian Empire claims to value above all else." Queen Zyelvaria turned back to the window. "You have 1 orbit cycle to end this inappropriate relationship, or I will send this Daniel Wright to the mining colonies of Epsilon Indi. You may go now." As Princess Nayeli left, her posture was stiff with defiance. She had expected her mother's reaction. But what the Queen didn't know was that Nayeli had already started making plans that would forever change the relationship between humans and the Cytherian Empire. Daniel Wright stood on the observation deck of the Earth Diplomatic Corps headquarters in Geneva, watching small ships dart across the evening sky. At 34, he had achieved what many thought impossible. He had become the main contact between humanity and the Cytherian Empire, the most powerful alien civilization humans had ever met. "Still waiting for Her Royal Highness?" Lavra Bennett, his colleague and friend, asked as she joined him at the railing. Daniel smiled. "Nayeli's meeting with the Queen today. Telling her about us." Laura's eyebrows shot up. "Bold move. How do you think Queen Six Eyes will take it? Her name is Zylvaria, Daniel corrected gently. And probably not well. The Cytherians value their bloodlines more than European royalty ever did. Yet here you are, the common human who captured a princess's heart. It's like a fairy tale. Except the princess has 4 arms and can lift a car. Daniel laughed, but his expression quickly became serious. It's more complicated than that. The Cytherians are at a turning point. Half their ruling council wants to fully embrace diplomatic relations with Earth, while the other half sees us as a potential threat to be controlled. Nayeli is risking a lot by taking our side. Lavra squeezed his shoulder. You really love her, don't you? Despite all the differences? Daniel watched as a diplomatic vessel cut through the clouds. The differences are part of what makes it special. Nayeli sees the universe in ways I never could. But at our core, we want the same things: peace, understanding, growth. His communication device made a soft sound. That's her, he said, heart beating faster as it always did when Nayeli contacted him. The message was short. Things went as expected, arriving in 2 hours. Prepare for Contingency Omega, Lavra frowned. Contingency Omega? That sounds bad. It's our backup plan, Daniel explained, already moving toward the exit. If the Queen rejected our relationship, we knew she might try to separate us. Omega means Nayeli is coming here, unofficially. You mean the princess of the most powerful alien empire is defying her mother to be with you? Lavra shook her head in disbelief. The diplomacy committee is going to have a field day with this. This isn't about diplomacy anymore, Daniel said firmly. This is about proving that humans and Cytherians can live together as equals, even love each other, despite our differences. As Daniel hurried to prepare for Nayeli's arrival, he worried about the possible consequences. The Cytherian Empire controlled trade routes that Earth desperately needed for its growing colonies. If the Queen took her daughter's defiance personally, humanity could suffer. 2 hours later, a sleek personal shuttle with Cytherian markings landed on the private diplomatic pad. The door opened to reveal Princess Nayeli in her natural form. 7 feet tall with shiny blue-green scales and 4 elegant arms. Her head crest was fully extended, a sign of strong emotion among her kind. Daniel, she said, her voice carrying both joy and tension. He rushed forward, taking 2 of her hands in his. How bad was it? My mother has given me 1 orbit cycle to end our relationship, Nayeli explained, her secondary eyes scanning the landing pad for possible watchers. She threatened to have you sent to a mining colony. Daniel winced. That's actually better than I expected. I thought she might have me killed. That's not her style, Nayeli said, her mouth making a human-like smile. Too messy. Political. Maneuvering is more her approach. She straightened her posture, determination evident in every movement. I've contacted the progressive members of the Imperial Council. My mother may be queen, but even she must respect the will of the council if enough members support our cause. Our cause being? Daniel asked, though he already knew the answer. The formal recognition of human-Cytherian relationships, starting with ours. Nayeli's voice took on the formal tone she used for official statements. It's time the Empire acknowledged that the old ways must change. Humans have proven themselves worthy allies in the short time we've known your species.